Hittite, also known as Nessite and Neshite, is the extinct language once spoken by the Hittites, an Indo-European people who created an empire centered on Hattusa in north-central Anatolia. The language is attested in cuneiform, in records from the 16th down to the 13th century BC, with isolated Hittite loanwords and numerous personal names appearing in an Old Assyrian context from as early as the 20th century BC. By the Late Bronze Age, Hittite had started losing ground to its close relative Luwian. It appears that in the 13th century BC Luwian was the most widely spoken language in the Hittite capital Hattusa. After the collapse of the Hittite Empire as a part of the more general Bronze Age collapse, Luwian emerged in the early Iron Age as the main language of the so-called Neo-Hittite states in southwestern Anatolia and northern Syria. Hittite is the earliest attested Indo-European language. It is the best known of the Anatolian branch. Name: Hittite is the modern name for the language, chosen after the identification of the Hatti kingdom with the Hittites mentioned in the Bible, although this identification was subsequently challenged. The terms Hattian or Hattic, by contrast, are used to refer to the indigenous people who preceded them, and the non-Indo-European Hattic language. In multilingual texts found in Hittite locations, passages written in the Hittite language are preceded by the adverb Nezili. In the speech of Nessa, an important city before the rise of the empire, in one case, the label is Kana Sumnili, in the speech of the people of Canes. Although the Hittite Empire was composed of people from many diverse ethnic and linguistic backgrounds, the Hittite language was used in most of their secular written texts. In spite of various arguments over the appropriateness of the term, Hittite remains the most current term by convention, although some authors make a point of using Nessite or Neshite. Decipherment: the first substantive claim as to the affiliation of the Hittite language was made by Jürgen Alexander Knutzone in 1902 in a book devoted to two letters between a king of Egypt and a Hittite ruler, found at El-Amarna in Egypt. Knutzone argued that Hittite was Indo-European, largely on the basis of the morphology. Although he had no bilingual texts, he was able to give a partial interpretation to the two letters because of the formulaic nature of the diplomatic correspondence of the period. His argument was not generally accepted, partly because the morphological similarities he observed between Hittite and Indo-European can be found outside of Indo-European, and partly because the interpretation of the letters was justifiably regarded as uncertain. Knutzone was shown definitively to have been correct when a large quantity of tablets written in the familiar Akkadian cuneiform script but in an unknown language was discovered by Hugo Winkler at the modern village of Bogaskoy, the former site of Hattusa, the capital of the Hittite Empire. Based on a study of this extensive material, Bedřich Hrozný succeeded in analyzing the language. He presented his argument that the language is Indo-European in a paper published in 1915, which was soon followed by a grammar of the language. Hrozny's argument for the Indo-European affiliation of Hittite was thoroughly modern, though poorly substantiated. He focused on the striking similarities in idiosyncratic aspects of the morphology, unlikely to occur independently by chance and unlikely to be borrowed. These included the r-n alternation in some noun stems and vocalic ablaut, both seen in the alternation in the word for water between nominative singular, wadar, and genitive singular, wedinas. He also presented a set of regular sound correspondences. After a brief initial delay due to the disruption caused by the First World War, Hrozny's decipherment, tentative grammatical analysis, and demonstration of the Indo-European affiliation of Hittite were rapidly accepted and more broadly substantiated by contemporary scholars such as Edgar H. Sturtevant, who authored the first scientifically acceptable Hittite grammar with a crestomathy and a glossary. The most up-to-date grammar of the Hittite language is currently Hofner and Melchett 2008. Classification. Hittite is one of the Anatolian languages. It is known from cuneiform tablets and inscriptions erected by the Hittite kings. The script formerly known as Hieroglyphic Hittite is now termed Hieroglyphic Luwian. The Anatolian branch also includes cuneiform Luwian, Hieroglyphic Luwian, Palaic, Lycian, Milian, Lydian, Carian, Pisidian, and Sidetic. Hittite lacks some features of the other Indo-European languages, such as a distinction between masculine and feminine, grammatical gender, subjunctive and optative moods, and aspect. Various hypotheses have been formulated to explain these contrasts. Some linguists, most notably Edgar H. Sturtevant and Warren Cowgill, have argued that it should be classified as a sister language to Proto-Indo-European, rather than a daughter language. Formulating the Indo-Hittite hypothesis. The parent, Indo-Hittite, lacked the features not present in Hittite, which Proto-Indo-European innovated. Other linguists, however, have taken the opposite point of view, the Schwund hypothesis, that Hittite came from a Proto-Indo-European possessing the full range of features, but simplified. A third hypothesis, supported by Calvert-Watkins and others, viewed the major families as all coming from Proto-Indo-European directly. They were all sister languages or language groups. Differences might be explained as dialectical. According to Craig Melchett, the current tendency is to suppose that Proto-Indo-European evolved, and that the prehistoric speakers of Anatolian became isolated from the rest of the Pi speech community, so as not to share in some common innovations. Hittite, as well as its Anatolian cousins, split off from Proto-Indo-European at an early stage, thereby preserving archaisms that were later lost in the other Indo-European languages. In Hittite there are many loan words, particularly religious vocabulary, from the non-Indo-European Hurran and Hattic languages. The latter was the language of the Hattians, the local inhabitants of the land of Hatti before being absorbed or displaced by the Hittites. Sacred and magical texts from Hattusa were often written in Hattic, Hurran, and Luwian, even after Hittite became the norm for other writings. The Hittite language has traditionally been stratified into Old Hittite, Middle Hittite and New or Neo-Hittite, corresponding to the Old, Middle and New kingdoms of the Hittite Empire. These stages are differentiated partly on linguistic and partly on paleographic grounds. Orthography. Hittite was written in an adapted form of peripheral Akkadian cuneiform orthography from northern Syria. Owing to the predominantly syllabic nature of the script, it is difficult to ascertain the precise phonetic qualities of a portion of the Hittite sound inventory. The syllabary distinguishes the following consonants: B, D, G, H, K, L, M, N, P, R, S, T, Z, combined with the vowels A, E, I. Additional Y, R, and Y signs are introduced. The Akkadian voiced, unvoiced series are not used to express the voiced, unvoiced contrast in Hittite, though double speakings in intervocalic positions represent voiceless consonants in Indo-European. Phonology. The limitations of the syllabic script have been more or less overcome by means of comparative etymology and an examination of Hittite spelling conventions, and accordingly, scholars have surmised that Hittite possessed the following phonemes. Vowels. Long vowels appear as alternates to their corresponding short vowels when they are so conditioned by the accent. Phonemically distinct long vowels occur infrequently. All vowels may occur word initially and word finally, except E. Consonants. All voiceless obstruents and all sonorants except R appear word initially. This is true of all Anatolian languages. Word finally. The following tendencies emerge. Among the stops, only voiced appear word finally. D, G are common, B rare, S occurs frequently, H, R, L, N less often, and M never. The glides, with J, appear in diphthongs with A, The voiced, unvoiced series are inferred from the fact that doubling consonants in intervocalic positions represents voiceless consonants in Indo-European, i.e., voice stops are represented by single consonants, voiceless stops with double consonants. Laryngeal Hittite preserves some very archaic features lost in other Indo-European languages. For example, Hittite has retained 2 of 3 laryngeals. These sounds, whose existence had been hypothesized by Ferdinand de Saussure on the basis of vowel quality in other Indo-European languages in 1879, were not preserved as separate sounds in any attested Indo-European language until the discovery of Hittite. In Hittite, this phoneme is written as H. Hittite, as well as most other Anatolian languages, differs in this respect from any other Indo-European language, and the discovery of laryngeals in Hittite was a remarkable confirmation of Saussure's hypothesis. The preservation of the laryngeals, and the lack of any evidence that Hittite shared grammatical features possessed by the other early Indo-European languages, has led some philologists to believe that the Anatolian languages split from the rest of Proto-Indo-European much earlier than the other divisions of the Proto-language. Some have proposed an Indo-Hittite language family or superfamily that includes the rest of Indo-European on one side of a dividing line and Anatolian on the other. The vast majority of scholars continue to reconstruct a Proto-Indo-European, but most believe that Anatolian was the first branch of Indo-European to leave the fold. Diffusion of Satem features in Indo-European. Sturtevant, the father of the Indo-Hittite hypothesis, was the first scholar to note the lack of U after K representing earlier, i.e. palatal *K or *G. Goetze and Whitman posited in these positions a K to S shift incipient of the later centum-Satem shift distinctive of the i.e. Satem group of languages. The diffusion hypothesis of the Satem features has the advantage to motivate the existence of marginal Satem features in Greek and Tocharian, and of marginal Kentem features in Armenian. Grammar. The oldest attested Indo-European language, Hittite lacks several grammatical features exhibited by other Old Indo-European languages such as Sanskrit, Latin, Ancient Greek, Old Persian, and Avestan. Notably, Hittite does not have the Indo-European gender system opposing masculine-feminine. Instead it has a rudimentary noun-class system based on an older animate-inanimate opposition. Morphology nouns. The Hittite nominal system consists of the following cases: nominative, accusative, dative, locative, genitive, allative, ablative, and instrumental, and distinguishes between 2 numbers and 2 genders, common and neuter. The distinction between genders is fairly rudimentary, with the distinction generally being made only in the nominative case, and the same noun is sometimes attested in both genders. In its most basic form, the Hittite noun declension functions as follows, using the examples of Pishna for animate and Peda for neuter. As can be seen, there is a trend towards distinguishing fewer cases in the plural than in the singular, although a handful of nouns in earlier text form a vocative with U. The vocative case was no longer productive even by the time of the earliest discovered sources, its function being subsumed by the nominative in most documents. The allative also fell out of use in the later stages of the language's development, its function subsumed by the dative locative, an archaic genitive plural, and is found irregularly in earlier texts, as is an instrumental plural in it. A few nouns also form a distinct locative without any case ending at all. Verbs. When compared with other early attested Indo-European languages, such as Ancient Greek and Sanskrit, the verb system in Hittite is morphologically relatively uncomplicated. There are 2 general verbal classes according to which verbs are inflected, the me conjugation and the high conjugation. There are 2 voices, 2 moods, and 2 tenses. Additionally, the verbal system displays two infinitive forms, one verbal substantive, a supine, and a participle. Rose lists 132 high verbs and interprets the high, me oppositions as vestiges of a system of grammatical voice. Me conjugation. The me conjugation is similar to the general verbal conjugation paradigm in Sanskrit, and can also be compared to the class of me verbs in ancient Greek. Active voice syntax. Hittite syntax exhibits one noteworthy feature typical of Anatolian languages. Commonly, the beginning of a sentence or clause is composed of either a sentence connecting particle or otherwise a fronted or topicalized form, to which a chain of fixed order clitics is appended. The basic word order of Hittite was usually verb final. Corpus. Literature. Introductions and overviews. Bryce, Trevor. The Kingdom of the Hittites. Oxford. Oxford University Press. ISBN 0-19-924010-8. Bryce, Trevor. Life and Society in the Hittite World. Oxford. Oxford University Press. ISBN 0-19-924170-8. Fortson, Benjamin W. Indo-European Language and Culture. An Introduction. Malden, Blackwell. ISBN 1-4051-0316-7. Melchett, Craig. The Position of Anatolian. Archived from the original on 9 July 2010. Dictionaries. Goetze, Albrecht. Review of Johannes Friedrich, Hebräisches Wörterbuch. Language 30.401-405. Sturtevant, Edgar H. Hittite Glossary. Words of known or conjectured meaning, with Sumerian ideograms and Akkadian words common in Hittite texts. Language, Volume 7, No. 2, pp. 3-82. Language Monograph No. 9. Purvell, John. Hittite Etymological Dictionary. Berlin. Mouton. The Chicago Hittite Dictionary. Grammar Hoffner, Harry A. and Melchett, Craig. A Grammar of the Hittite Language. Winona, Eisenbrauns. ISBN 1-57506-119-8. Hout Theo van den. The Elements of Hittite. Cambridge. Cambridge University Press. ISBN 0521115647. Rosny, Bedrick. Die Sprache der Hethiter. IHR Bau und IHR Rezughorigkeit zum Dogermanischen Sprachstamm. Leipzig. Hinrichs. Jasinoff, J.H. Hittite and the Indo-European Verb. Oxford. Oxford University Press. ISBN 0-19-924905-9. Luragi, Sylvia. Hittite. Munich. Lincoln Europa. ISBN 3-89586-076-X. Melchett, Craig. Anatolian Historical Phonology. Amsterdam. Rodopy. ISBN 90-5183-697-X. Patry, Sylvain. L'alignement syntaxique dans les langues indo-européennes d'Anatolia. Wiesbaden. Harrisowitz. ISBN 978-3-447-05612-0. Rose, R. The Hittite High, Me Conjugations. Innsbruck. Institut für Sprachen und Literatur der Universität Innsbruck. ISBN 3-85124-704-3. Sturtevant, Edgar H. A. Comparative Grammar of the Hittite Language. Rev. ed. New Haven. Yale University Press, 1951. First edition. 1933. Sturtevant, Edgar H. A. The Indo-Hittite Laryngeals. Baltimore. Linguistic Society of America. Watkins, Calvert. Hittite. The Cambridge Encyclopedia of the World's Ancient Languages. 551-575. ISBN 0-521-56256-2. Yakubovich, Ilya. Sociolinguistics of the Luwin Language. Leiden, Brill. Text editions Goetze, Albrecht and Edgar H. Sturtevant. The Hittite Ritual of Tunawai, New Haven. American Oriental Society. Sturtevant, Edgar H. A. and George Bechtel. A Hittite Chrestomythy. Baltimore. Linguistic Society of America. Knutzone. A. Die Svyazawa Briefe. Die Altesten Urkunden in Indogermanische Sprache. Leipzig. Hinrichs. Journal articles Rosny, Bedrick. Die Lösung des Hevitischen Problems. Mitteilungen der Deutschen Orientgesellschaft 56. 17-50. Sturtevant, Edgar H. The Development of the Stops in Hittite. Journal of the American Oriental Society 52. 1-12. DOI 10.2307, 593573. JSTOR 593573. Sturtevant, Edgar H. Evidence for Voicing in Hittite G. Language 16. 81-87. DOI 10.2307, 408942. JSTOR 408942. Whitman, Henry. A Note on the Linguistic Form of Hittite Sheep. Review Hittite Asianique 22. 117-118. Whitman, Henry. 1964. Some Hittite Etymologies. Die Sprache. 10, 19. 144-148. 39-43. Whitman, Henry. The Development of K in Hittite. Glossa 3. 22-26. Whitman, Henry. The Indo-European Drift and the Position of Hittite. International Journal of American Linguistics 35. 266-268. DOI 10.1086, 465065.